All right. Welcome to Sideboard MTG. My name's Eric, and we've got a special deck for you guys today. This is Kambal Soup, brought to you by David Reese, or Rush, for those of you that know him in chat. This is his Brawl deck. He's been having a lot of fun with it, and wanted me to show it off for you guys. So here goes Kambal's Soup. Hope you guys like it. Give it that thumbs up if you do. Let him know how much you care about his deck, right? All right, guys. I guess we should just start right off the bat here with Kambal, Consulate of Allocation. So whenever an opponent casts a non-creature spell, you're going to gain 2 life, and they're going to lose 2 life. Nice and simple. Two life drain there, 4 life difference every single time they cast a non-creature spell. So if they're fatal pushing, whatever it is they're doing, they're going to take some damage, right? So that is Kambal. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the different cards here in Rush's deck. We've got as far as lands go, there's not many non-basics. This is Brawl. You can only use 1 copy of each spell. You can't have any duplicates, so you get 59 cards, your commander, and they all have to be standard legal. All right, so those are the rules to Brawl for those of you that are a little bit new to Brawl or not really used to it. And for those of you wanting to see this deck played, we're going to be playing it tonight in a Brawl League here on Magic Online. And if you guys want to pick up the deck, it's only about 19 tickets or $65 in paper. You can rent it with the smallest package from Mana Traders if you guys want to do that. But either way, really cool deck, and let's get to talking about it here. We've got Concealed Courtyard and Isolated Chapel are the only 2 mana fixing lands that he decided to put in here as far as dual lands go. We do have a Memorial to Folly and a Memorial to Glory. A lot of people aren't used to Memorial to Glory, so this one is basically works like the others. You can sacrifice it, but you get to make 2 1/1 white soldier tokens. And now Memorial to Folly, that's a little bit more common here in Standard. So I mean, people have seen this one a little more. This particular card will give you one of the creatures you've already lost back to your hand. Now again, if you lose Kambal himself and he goes into the Brawl Commander Zone, you can just cast him again for 2 more converted mana costs each time he has been put back into the Commander Zone. So other than that, the only utility land in the deck is a Shephet Dunes. I think the deck's going to play fairly well. We've got plenty of sources for both white and black, and so the deck's not very taxing on mana. There are some double white, double black, but it being 2 colors makes this kind of smooth. So I do have this broken up into multiple different sections here. We've got cards that are going to be doing things, just good spells to run. We've got other cards that are either going to disrupt our opponent, wipe the board altogether, that sort of thing. And then, of course, I guess this should be over here. Then we have all of our creatures or creature-like spells. So let's jump straight into the creatures, and I guess I'll just start with Legion's Landing. I'm calling Legion's Landing an honorary creature. It could probably be in the last row over there, but Legion's Landing, it's a good 1-drop. Once you start attacking with multiple creatures, and this deck can do that, once you start attacking with multiple creatures, you're going to be able to flip it, making a creature each turn, which can really buy you a lot of time to make your opponent have to deal with those creatures. And if they have to deal with those creatures, they have to take a little damage from our Kambal. I keep wanting to call him Brawl, right? All right, so God Pharaoh's Faithful. Every time you cast a blue, black, or red spell, you're going to gain a life. Now, we're not going to get anything out of that blue or red, but we are going to get something out of those black spells. And we'll talk a little bit more about why it's important to gain a little bit of life later as we get into a couple extra cards. So God Pharaoh's Faithful here, just a really good wall that you can throw down, buy you a little bit of time, get on into that late game, get some of these more expensive cards down on the battlefield, and then kind of go from there. Knight of Grace pairing with your Knight of Malice, which is 100% in the deck. I don't think they need much introduction, but they both work hand in hand together. They're both 2 mana creatures of their color. They both have first strike, and they both have protection from the opposite color. So, the white one has hexproof from black, and the black one has hexproof from white. Now, I did say protection, but it's color fixed hexproof. Maybe this is the new type of protection. We'll go with it. But each one of them will get a +1/+0 as long as you have a permanent type of the opposite color. So as long as you have a white permanent, the black one will get a +1. If the have a black permanent, the white one will get a +1. So, pretty straightforward there. Glory Bound Initiate, just another way to gain a little bit of life. Glory Bound Initiate is absolutely terrific. It does suffer a little bit, to Goblin Chain Whirler in Standard, but this is not actually Standard. The most copies of Chain Whirler that someone can have in their deck here in Brawl is one copy. So, we're not really bound to that, oh my god, Chain Whirler is going to kill us kind of thing. So we can make some use out of these 1 toughness creatures here. Now, when Glory Bound Initiate swings, you can exert it, and it's actually going to swing as a 4/4 with lifelink, which is going to be huge, absolutely terrific, gaining you that extra life. Adorned Pouncer, probably one of the better cats that we've had in quite some time. It's just a 1/1 with double strike, but stops all of those little small dudes. You can get in because their small guys are going to die on first strike damage, and then if you happen to kill this and you get to bring it back from the graveyard, you've got a 4/4 with double strike for just 5 mana. That's a really good creature. So half the work's getting this in the graveyard just so you can cast it again later or eternalize it again later. Great card, love the card, glad it's in the deck. Now, we do have some Ascend, and Twilight Prophet's perfect for this, as this deck kind of wants to create that kind of that wall to hide behind, and then use other means to just get your opponent down to nothing. Twilight Prophet works well for that. We'll be able to go wide with our creatures. We'll be able to rebuild after our board wipes very well. So Twilight Prophet being able to attack your opponent from a different direction. Let's read the card and talk a little bit about that. So at the beginning of your upkeep, if you have the City's Blessing, so you do have to ascend, and remember this is a static effect. So the moment you hit 10 permanents on the battlefield, if you have Twilight Prophet on the battlefield, it's instantly going to check for ascend. You'll get your City's Blessing even if someone removes one of your permanents immediately after. But as at the beginning of your upkeep, if you have the City's Blessing, you're going to be able to reveal the top card of your library and put it into your hand. Each opponent loses X life and you gain X life, where X is that card's converted mana cost. Now, you're going to reveal that, put it in your hand, and no matter how much life they're going to lose, you just drew a card. We haven't made it to your draw step yet. So we're instantly getting a little bit of card advantage, but until you get the City's Blessing, this is just a 2/4 for 4 with flying. So we do want to get that City's Blessing, get this Twilight Prophet out, get those extra cards, things like that. It's going to be absolutely terrific. Joshu Vess here, this is a kicker card with Menace. If we happen to go into that late game, we get up to 10 mana, you can kick this and it's a board in a box. When Joshu Vess, Lich Knight, enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, create 8 2/2 black zombie knight creature tokens with Menace. So not only are these zombies, but they're zombie knights with Menace. Okay, so we're talking like Veraska pirates here. That's pretty good, all right. But they do benefit from some other knight synergies if we happen to come across any of those. So Joshu Vess, absolutely great. 4 mana, 4/5. Even if you don't play him with the kicker, he still passes the vanilla test. He has a keyword ability in Menace, so you're going to be getting in with your Joshu Vess, even if you play him early. Now, Oathsworn Vampire may seem a little bit out of place. I mean, it is a knight, it is a vampire, but Oathsworn Vampire enters the battlefield. And if you happen to gain life this turn, remember when I was talking about gaining life, if you've gained life this turn, you can cast Oathsworn Vampire from the graveyard. Okay, that's pretty cool. Alright, so all you have to do is gain a little bit of life. Now you can just pay 2 mana, cast this from your graveyard, and bam, Bob's your uncle. You got your creature back, right? Demon of Catastrophe. With creatures like Oathsworn Vampire, and you're not really worried about, whether or not you're ever going to get them back, Demon of Catastrophe could, sacrifice something of that nature, and now you've got a 4 mana 6/6 with Flample. Everybody loves some flying and trample, right? Normally your opponent's not going to have some really big stuff up there to, kind of Whoa, you're not swinging at me. Well, this 6/6 doesn't care. He is getting in. He is going to be doing some damage. So a 6/6 for 4 sounds absolutely terrific for me. And then, of course, where would a black deck be without a copy of Gonti? You got to run Gonti. You have to run Gonti until he's gone. This card is absolutely phenomenal. You're going to be able to flip up the top 4 cards of your opponent's library. They don't get to see what you're looking at. You're going to pick one of those, put that into exile, let them put the rest on the bottom of their library, and then you can use mana as though it were mana of any color to cast that. So you pull their negate, you pull their disallow, you pull whatever you want, maybe even their Teferi. Who cares what you pull? You get the best card out of 4, tuck that away. I mean, worst case scenario, it's a land. They don't know it's a land. You could sit there, you're bluffing with their own card. Hey, it's absolutely terrific. Or you could use my trick where I like to leave it in their exile pile face down so they can't see it. They forget about it. And, then out of nowhere, I reach over into their exile pile, pull it out, flip it over, cast it, get wrecked, son. Right? Another card that I was really, really happy to see here. Now, this is Dream Stealer. Dream Stealer is a 3 mana 1/2 with Menace. Now, that may not sound like a lot to you, but for 6 mana, you can eternalize this and you've got a 4/4. Now, when Dream Stealer deals combat damage to a player, that player discards that many cards. So it may not seem like a whole lot at the beginning, but Dream Stealer can do some serious damage late. If your opponent's, winning on that card advantage and you smack him with a Dream Stealer, all of a sudden you're winning, right? Winning. So I do like some Dream Stealer here. And then, of course, Yahenni. Yahenni Undying Partisan. And we'll have to go back to Oathsworn Vampire and Yahenni in just a moment. But Yahenni Undying Partisan is going to work really well with our board wipes and such. You cast Fumigate, but you go ahead and eat one of your creatures beforehand. Yahenni's going to get a little bit bigger because whenever you wipe the board and you wipe all of your opponent's creatures out, Yahenni's still going to be indestructible from eating your creature, and then he's going to get all of these +1/+1 counters from the creatures your opponent lost. Now, you can't just eat your own creatures and make Yahenni bigger and bigger and bigger, but eating one of your creatures, gaining that indestructible, then wiping the board, destroying everything on the board, Yahenni sticks around. You might even, instantly be ready for an alpha swing for lethal. It could happen. Yahenni can do some crazy stuff like that. So we will talk about him in a little bit of a combo here in just a moment. Now, we also have Pitiless Plunderer. All right, now this works with the combo, so I should probably go ahead and mention it. Whenever another creature you control dies, create a colorless treasure artifact token with, sacrifice it, make a mana. Okay, so let's jump ahead here a little bit, and let's say that we got our Bantu's Monument on the battlefield, right? So if you have a Bantu's Monument on the battlefield, it's going to make black creatures you control cost 1 less to cast, and whenever you cast a creature spell, not necessarily a black creature spell, but whenever you cast a creature spell, your opponent's going to lose life and you're going to gain a life. So we're back to that draining thing again, right? So let's say, you happen to have this on the battlefield, and then, you get your Pitiless Plunderer out. You've got that Oathsworn Vampire that chump blocked early in the game. He's sitting in the graveyard. You've got your Yahenni. Use one of your effects, gain a little bit of life. Yahenni, can now start, eating things. Let's say you just cast the Yahenni. You're going to gain that life from Bantu's Monument, and now you can spend 1 mana to bring back Oathsworn Vampire. Let's go back up here and look at Oathsworn Vampire. You can bring back Oathsworn Vampire for 1 mana because of the reduction from Bantu's Monument, and then eat it with Yahenni. You'll just eat it, and then when you eat it, it will make a treasure token, which will give you an extra mana. Okay, so you lost a dude, and now you get to make a mana. Well, you sacrifice that artifact to make 1 more mana, and you cast the Oathsworn Vampire yet again. Now, when you cast the Oathsworn Vampire again, you're going to trigger the Bantu's Monument. You're going to drain your opponent for 1, and you're going to gain 1. Then you just sacrifice it to the Yahenni, eat it. So Yahenni eats him, or steals his aether. But you will then put him back in the graveyard, creating yet another treasure. Sacrifice that treasure for 1 black. Cast Oath Swarm Vampire again. You get an infinite loop here. Yeah, it's a little out there, but it is something that is an option. And if you're playing, commander decks, brawl decks, things like that, there's going to be some points where this is eventually going to happen. And when it does, you're just going to feel so great, right? Like, bam, gotcha, gotcha. Woo, get there. And then, of course, we do have a couple other bigger bodies here. We've got Regal Bloodlord, and this is another one of those cards that care a little bit about you gaining that life. This is a flying 2/4, kind of like your Twilight, your Twilight. Oh, I can't think of the name of it. Twilight Prophet, yes. Kind of like your Twilight Prophet when you. If you don't have anything, it's just a vanilla 2/4 flyer. But if you gain life that turn at the beginning of each end step. So if you gain life on their turn, you gain life on your turn, you are going to create a 1/1 black bat creature token with flying, giving you a couple extra bodies, which, those extra bodies are going to buy you more time to get into more crazy things and do more crazy stuff. So absolutely terrific. And then, of course, Leonin War Leader. Now, I really, really like this card. Whenever Leonin War Leader attacks, create 2 1/1 white cat creature tokens with lifelink. They are tapped and attacking. So even if you lose them, you're going to gain that life. You're going to start that life gain thing, and then from there you can get some other shenanigans rolling. Also, lifelink is a great way to gain a little bit of life on the opponent's turn. So that's the bulk of your creature cards. Now let's talk about how we keep our opponent from doing things, right? You'll notice that most of the power and toughness in the deck, or at least most of the toughness in the deck, does kind of rise above Yahenni's expertise. Most of your dudes are going to have that 4 toughness, and with the 4 toughness, you can Yahenni's expertise under most of them, and you're going to wipe the board of all the little creatures, of course, but you can rebuild a little bit quicker than most other decks. So Yahenni's expertise is not going to hurt you that much, and you do get to cast a free 3 converted mana cost spell from your hand. Now, we've got a ton of other ways to do some crazy things to our opponent, but for the most part, I want to cover these board wipes first. You got Yahenni's expertise, we got Fumigate, which is going to gain us life, but then again, Fumigate's going to wipe the board, absolutely wipe the board. I think the only card in the deck that can survive Fumigate is Yahenni, but that's kind of the one you want to survive, right? And with some of the other cards we have, you're going to be able to rebuild very quick. Now, of course, we do have a copy of Settle the Wreckage because, that doesn't hurt our side of the board, and if our opponent's big and bad enough to swing into us, we're going to need something like a Settle the Wreckage. So having a copy of Settle the Wreckage works really, really well here. And then, of course, a card that doesn't get much play, but it's Brawl. You can only have 1 copy of each thing, so Slaughter the Strong. Each player chooses any number of creatures they control with power 4 or less, then sacrifices all other creatures they control. So let's say you've got a Twilight Prophet and, I don't know, a Dream Stealer and a token. You can, say, okay, I'm going to keep this for 2, that for 1, and that for 1. Or you could just keep your Leonin War Leader. You pick. You get to choose, all right, up to 4 power distributed amongst my creatures ever how I want. I'm going to keep this 4 power and everything else can go away. You may only have a total of 4 power, and that's kind of where this comes in. If you're against a green deck and they've got all these big Galtas and things like that, well, anything over 4 power is automatically gone, okay? Flat out gone. Just because it can't be selected, period. Anything under 4 power can be selected. You can keep that. But Slaughter the Strong, I haven't gotten a chance to play with this particular card much, but I think if any deck can pull it off, this is going to be the one. And then, of course, one more absolute board wipe here, and that is Bantu's Last Reckoning. Now, this is not exactly what we want to cast, but again, you can only have 1 copy of each spell in your library here at a time. So Bantu's Last Reckoning is that extra board wipe we need. And then we've got a couple utility cards. I'll go ahead and pull this Profane Procession up where you guys can see it a little bit better. This is a 3 mana enchantment that you can pay 5 mana to exile target creature. Then, if there are 3 or more cards exiled with Profane Procession, transform it. Now, once you transform it, you can pay a total of 5 mana because this will count as one of those. So, the Tomb of the Dusk Rose plus 4 other mana, and you can you like put one of those creatures that you exiled with it back onto the battlefield. Now, unfortunately, I rarely flip this because I like to put 200 and then start eating like the Scarab God tokens, things like that. Yeah, it's 5 mana to deal with their 4 mana, creature that they're bringing back. But if you're eating tokens and things like that, they're not actually going to exile under them, because as soon as they hit the exile zone, they vanish altogether. So you'll never actually hit 3 creatures under the Profane Procession, which means you get to keep doing this over and over and over. So, oh, dead draw, I just drew a land. Oh well, I guess I'll just keep eating your tokens or eating the things that are going to bother me. And that is exactly why I love Profane Procession. Now, we do have a copy of Eldest Reborn here. Now, this is the only saga in the deck, unless I've missed one here. This is the only saga in the deck. This card works really well. It is a historic spell, just in case that does happen to matter. But each opponent sacrifices a creature or planeswalker for the first lore counter. So you play it, they got to sack something, and then your next turn they're going to have to discard a card, and then the third lore counter goes on it, and you get to put target creature or planeswalker card from a graveyard. That's any graveyard, guys. If you're in a multiplayer, you've got 3-4 graveyards to look from. Who knows how many graveyards you got to look through, and you get to put one of those back into your library. And now do remember that in a multiplayer format, each opponent sacrifices a creature or planeswalker. Each opponent discards a card. So the number of card advantage that you're going to get off of this is absolutely phenomenal in a multiplayer format. Now, again, tonight, online, we're not going to be playing multiplayer, and this deck was constructed for multiplayer. We're going to be playing some one-on-one brawl. So we might not be able to do those ridiculously crazy things with Eldest Reborn, but it's still a great card. Now, Yawgmoth's Vile Offering here. 5 mana spell. It is a legendary sorcery, so you may cast a legendary sorcery only if you control a legendary creature or planeswalker. Well, we have quite a few legendary creatures. We do not have any planeswalkers in the deck, but we do have quite a few legendary creatures, so it is highly viable that we will be able to cast this. Now, you also have to consider your commander is legendary. So if we need to get a legendary creature on the battlefield, we can also always just cast our commander and then cast Yawgmoth's Vile Offering. Now, Yawgmoth's Vile Offering, really cool spell. Put up to 1 target creature or planeswalker card from a graveyard. There's that word again, guys. A graveyard, or 2 words, whatever. Onto the battlefield under your control. Then you get to destroy up to 1 target creature or planeswalker. Now, unfortunately, because of the way it's worded, you don't get to destroy something and then put that very thing that you destroyed back. You do have to resolve your spell, resolve the abilities as they're printed on the card from the top to bottom. So, you do need to, go ahead and target the creature or planeswalker you want to bring back, target the creature that you want to destroy. So, they just kind of flip spots on the battlefield. You get a dude back, they lose a dude. Great card. Absolutely love it. But you do have to exile this after you cast it. You exile Yawgmoth's Vile Offering is the last thing that will happen. So, that is the bulk of the board wipes, the control spells. Now we've got a ton of spells that are just going to kind of help us out here, right? Argyle's Bloodfast, this probably doesn't need any introduction, but it's a 2 mana flip card here. And yes, the Temple of Acolytes is very cool. You can just tap it and gain life equal to the tap it and sacrifice a creature and gain life equal to the creature's toughness. Very great, but you don't get to flip it until after you're at 5 or less life, which, if you're at 5 or less life, you might be in a little bit of danger, so you may need something like Temple of Acolytes to be able to help you out. Now, the best part of this card is you can just pay 1 black and 1 colorless, pay 2 life, which is going to help you get down there so that you can actually flip this, draw a card. And that's instant speed. There's no restriction on, how many times you can do it. As long as you got mana, as long as you got life, you can keep drawing cards off of this. And if you've got a ton of ways to gain life, every 2 life you gain when you have an Argyle's Bloodfast on the battlefield equals an extra card, guys. Just think about that. All that life gain, hey man, we're just going to draw cards, right? Okay, so Authority of the Console, another way to gain life. If your opponent plays a creature, if a creature enters the battlefield under your opponent's control, you're going to gain a life. Not to mention, that creature is going to enter the battlefield tapped. It's not going to be blocking anytime soon because it's tapped, right? You're at least going to be able to get through it one more time. And the next card's actually really, really cool. I love the art on this card. I think it's really cool. This is Dead Man's Chest. I mean, this dude, he's basically in a chest of his own, but he's got his treasure. 2 mana, you enchant creature an opponent controls. When enchanted creature dies, you get to exile cards equal to that creature's power from the top of its owner's library. Now those stay in exile, right? They're also not, exiled face up. This works exactly like Gonti. You may cast non-land cards from among them as long as they remain in exile. And you may spend mana as though it were mana of any color or any type to cast those spells. So pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Hey, look, buddy, I'm cursing. I'm cursing that big dude of yours right there. Oh my God, that's a Galta. Here, curse it. Right now, we just have to find a way to kill it. Anyway, that would be living the dream, right? Right, to be able to Dead Man's Chest something like a Galta and then fumigate or slaughter the strong. Oh, please let that happen tonight. Please let that happen. Either way, that would be absolutely terrific. You're going to flip 12 cards up off of your opponent's library, and then you're just going to keep those in exile and basically grab them. That's a big handful of cards here and be like, let me look through my options from your deck. I hope that we get to have some fun with Dead Man's Chest. This card looks like it's going to be a ton of fun. Moving on down here, we've got an instant spell. Now, this is another way to make your creatures indestructible. If you're doing something like fumigating or something like that, then Make a Stand is going to be perfect for you. A lot of you guys are probably used to Heroic Intervention, instant speed, make all of your guys indestructible. Well, this does that, costs a little bit more mana, but it's also going to give all of your creatures +1/+0. So you might want to use this as a combat trick. You're getting into combat. Oh, they think you don't have good blocks. All of a sudden you do have good blocks and you don't lose anything. Or they think that they have good blocks and they're not going to be taking any damage or whatever, and you just kind of swing on them. Anyway, 3 mana instant speed, make all of your dudes indestructible, give them +1/+0. It works. It works. It's a good combat trick. Now, we do have a couple more ways to draw some cards here. The Immortal Sun. Players can't activate Planeswalker's loyalty abilities, and at the beginning of your draw step, draw an additional card. Spells you cast cost one generic less to cast, and creatures you control get +1/+1. So it works as an Anthem effect, works as a mana ramp or reduction in spell costs, which in some cases can be a lot better than mana ramp. I mean, if it just ramped you 1 mana, that would help for one spell, but this actually makes all spells cost a little bit less, so that's going to help a lot. And then giving you more card advantage is terrific. You'll notice we don't have Planeswalkers, so we're not worried about the first line attacks. Your opponents do need to worry about that because, hey, what is Teferi going to do if he can't activate his abilities, right? And then, of course, we've got the 2 monuments. We've got Oketra's Monument and Bantu's Monument. We've already spoke about Bantu's Monument when we were talking about the Oathsworn Vampire. But Bantu's Monument here, it's going to reduce that casting cost of your black spells. Oketra's Monument is going to reduce the casting cost of white spells. Now, Bantu's Monument is going to, drain them for 1 life, so they'll lose a life, you'll gain a life. Oketra's Monument is going to give you a 1/1 warrior with vigilance. If that warrior attacks, it's going to make them lose a life. If it blocks, it technically gains you life. So I'll let you be the choice on which one's better. I think they're both great, so I was happy to see them both in the deck. Now we do have another expertise spell here. Now this is Saram's expertise, another 4 mana expertise, so you get to cast a free 3 converted mana cost or less off of it. But this just creates 3 1/1s colorless servo artifacts. So make some servos, get a couple 1/1s there, or 3 1/1s, and you're going a little bit wider, a little bit more time has been bought there, and just a pretty good spell. Now we got the exact same thing, only we're not getting to cast free spells off of it here in Call to the feast. But these vampires are a little bit different. They're 1/1 white vampire creature tokens with lifelink. So Call to the Feast, making 3/1/1 lifelinkers, which goes with that gain a little bit of life theme, right? Three vamps is that's more than enough to get an extra card off of Argyle's Bloodfast. It's more than enough to flip your Legion's Landing, things of that nature. So buys you quite a bit of time. And then of course, moving on down to the last two cards here, we've got Open the Graves. Open the Graves is actually a really cool card. It is 5 mana though, which that bothers me, but this deck's got a ton of ways to stabilize and to get into 5 mana. Whenever a non-token creature you control dies, even if Kambal dies or something like that. Whenever a non-token creature you control dies, you're going to be able to make a 2/2 black zombie creature token. So that's absolutely terrific. They kill any of your other stuff. You make a zombie, and now you kind of replace that card that you've lost. The last card here is Raider's Wake. I know this is a pet card for quite a few people. At the beginning of your end step, if you attacked with a creature, target opponent's going to discard a card. So if you're playing in multiplayer, this is target opponent, so it allows you to be a little bit diplomatic and things like that. But whenever an opponent discards a card, that player is going to lose 2 life. Now, do make sure that you remember that things like cycling and stuff like that does require them to discard. They activate Bomat Courier and dump a couple cards from their hand. They're going to be discarding cards. So whenever they discard a card, that player loses 2 life. So another way to just kind of sit back, make things happen, swing in with maybe a 1/1 vampire or something, trigger a whole bunch of things, and make your opponent discard a card and then lose even more life. Oh my goodness, it could get out of hand. Either way, guys, that is the deck. I hope you guys like it. My name's Eric. We'll see you later tonight for some gameplay. Catch you next time.